When the building was first built, it was just one big room, the schoolroom and so on. And it was built in 1848 by Mr. and Mrs. Covington. They were the original school teachers down at the Fort Vancouver. And they got a grant, and there's a copy of the permit, the land grant from Lincoln on the wall.
We saw that.
Yes. And what was so interesting is that it was made out to both Mrs. Covington and Mr. Covington, which they were not at that time. And so anyway, they built this out, and it was built at Five Corners in Orchards. Okay. Yeah, up there on Covington Road, Five Corners. And then in 1926, it was dismantled piece by piece, and you can see that on the wall here in the men's bathroom, and on the outside wall, they're numbered.
Oh, yeah.
Remembered, and they took them all apart, numbered them all, and then moved it all in here and rebuilt it. Put it in. And then later on, of course, we added the bathroom.
This whole thing's been added on. That's the original.
Uh-huh, that's the original, see, the original,
Right.
right there, yes. So, yeah.
Outside, because we're going to go and listen to the bagpipe.
Are we going out?
Yeah, so I'm serving kids goes up there. Everybody outside. To go up into the loft area for their sleeping room. The bar for them to, travel back and forth, so they stayed here and went up there.
And the girls' boarding school.
You have your name tag. Who are you?
Those pamphlets over there were your about the house.
Day before yesterday, I did a tour of the post hospital. A police lieutenant who had done a search in there looking for someone at midnight.
Oh, you did that day before yesterday?
Day before yesterday. Went through it with him.
Do you know Martha Rose of the Heritage Fort Vancouver Heritage Friends of Fort Vancouver?
Oh, yeah.
I heard her yesterday. Mm-hmm. And I heard so much about Vancouver. It was DAR yesterday. We had a 100th anniversary of the chapter.
And we are so fortunate to have Pat Jollota. You all know Pat Jollota, I'm sure you do. She's wonderful, and she's a magnificent storyteller as well as relating history.
So it's Halloween time, and they wanted me to talk about ghosts. And this town has them. This town really has them. Of course, we're the oldest city in Washington, so naturally we would have the most. Because when you got a lot of age, you got a lot of ghosts. So, how do I, first of all, I've never seen a ghost. Never seen one, never heard one. But for 22 years, I was curator of education at our historical museum. And people would come in to research the property, which we did a lot of. We did a lot of researching of property for environmental impact studies, for historic register studies, that sort of thing. Then there were the people who couldn't really tell you what they wanted. So you'd give them records, you'd show them photographs of the property. No, that's not it. Well, you know, what is it that you're looking for? Well, I think the house is haunted. Oh, okay. Now this is a different kind of research. Now we're not, is this just going off? Did I do that? Is it cutting? There we go. We're not doing the sticks and the glass and the bricks. We're doing the people that lived in it. Bridge has more than its share of haunts. It's over 100 years old now. It opened on the northbound span. Opened on Valentine's Day of 1917. And one of the gentlemen that was really instrumental in getting that bridge built was Grover Percival, who would later become mayor of Vancouver. And on election night, 1920, he's not running for re-election. John Higgins is going to be elected mayor. And they were friends. So, and I can tell you, you're not sad when you walk away from an elected post. The last time you walk out of City Hall, there is no sadness there. And that's the way it was for him that night. And he was seen walking around, tipping his hat to the ladies, talking, jovial. And he walked out across the bridge and disappeared. And they searched for him, and they searched for him, and they searched for him. And surprisingly, there were bodies found all up and down the river. It was a very different time. And the family would go and look and know it wasn't him. And finally, after a month, they found him hanging in a tree in the primeval forests of Hayden Island. Yeah. Hung with his own handkerchief. Okay, so they put it down to suicide. From that time on, he has been seen on the bridge. And he walks across the bridge, headed south, in his long dark overcoat that he was wearing that night and a fedora hat. When he gets to the hump of the bridge, he walks into it and disappears. The hump was not there in 1920. The hump was not put in until the 1950s. I personally don't think it was suicide. Yeah, you don't go get him hanging on an inch. I'm sorry, that doesn't. But he has been seen ever since. People would report on foggy nights hearing a lost airplane. Talk about lost stuff. They could hear it, and it would fade away into the distance, and then it would come back. But you couldn't see it. It was foggy. And this tied in with another story. I was at Warehouse 23, and the bartender, well, you know, it's Warehouse 23. The bartender said, you know, this place is so haunted. I said, I know. And he said, I was back in the kitchen, locking up for the night. He said, and I opened the door into the storage room. He said, and this scream came that echoed through the building. And he said, I just ran. Okay. So what happened at House 23, or when it was in that? Well, nothing. Just nothing happened. However, and what ties these whole stories together, in 1921, 2 years before Warehouse 23 was built, a young man was flying an airplane, of course. He's delivering mail, and the fog comes in, and he can't find the Swan Island airport. Swan Island can hear him in the fog, and they're shooting up flares. But he doesn't see them. And he flies back to Camas and circles. The people in Camas can hear him. He can't find Pearson. He flies past it, goes back to Sauvie Island, circles, comes back, and on the way back down from Camas, here is the lift span of the Interstate Bridge. He'd been flying back and forth across the bridge. and he hit the lift span and spiraled into where the kitchen would be today of the Warehouse 23. So between the lost airplane, and you can imagine the scream that he must have made when he suddenly saw the structure of the Interstate Bridge in front of him. Oh, that place, I'll tell you. Well, and I tell this story every time I give a talk, so or a post talk, so I'm sure most of you. But I was at the museum, and a couple came in from California. They were touring, and they'd stayed at the Inn of the Key, and here's the story they told. They were asleep, and the man woke up, and there was a woman standing at the foot of the bed, wearing a sparkly dress. Well, his wife was in the bed next to him. He turned on the light, of course, you know what happened, no one's there. And they recount this to the waiter. They said, look up, there's a woman. And he said, oh, you must be in room 160. Yeah. There was a murder there. So he comes in the museum and, wants to know about the murder. Well, to a historian, that was a 1960s building. That's brand new to a curator. And I said, well, I'll see what I can find out. Well, doggone it, wasn't a month later. I couldn't find anything. A month later, a woman comes in, and she's a maid at the Inn of the Key. And her story is that she was checking the rooms that were the vacant rooms to get them ready to rent that night. And she got to room 160, she opened the door, and there's a woman sitting on the bed. So she said, okay, it's been rented. She backed out, then immediately went back in to see if the woman needed towels, and of course no one was there. So now I've got two occurrences, both in the same room at the hotel. So I really started looking into, since the guy said it was a murder, let's find some crimes. And I found it. We've all heard of dysfunctional families. This guy lived in Arizona. His wife lived up on McLaughlin and Harney Hill. And if he wanted to see her, he would tear $100 bills in half, send her half, and if she wanted the other half, she'd have to see him.